Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I am Sue Rose Minahan, Talk Cosmos. Today is March 29th of 2026. Yes, our subject is the second government, the USA. And why? Because in 1789, we reorganized a defunct government that couldn't even raise taxes to pay the wonderful soldiers or our debts. And I have a very happy to have returning with me an astrologer that's been on past shows, that is very well known here in the Northwest, although we do air everywhere, and that's Karen Wennerlind. So we're ready now for this to get started.
Talk Cosmos engages unique events during the 3rd and 4th weeks of the month, featuring a myriad of new and returning guests. Joining host and founder Sue Rose Minahan, they co-create to explore and contemplate a wide spectrum of potent subjects. Embark on today's topic within our panorama of guests and insights as we welcome the astrologers for this conversation.
Hello, hello. Yes, hi, Karen.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I truly am. You know, we're in that little zone, I think, where everything is direct, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, kind of retracing steps, and I have a plan. But this is really an exciting conversation. And I did add that it's about the moon's second progression, and we'll talk about that because it's illuminating how this country is that we're living in is negotiating life. But let me get to, first of all, telling people a little bit about you. Karen Wennerlind is a professional astrology and business consultant, and she involves both Western and Uranian astrology, besides the fact of her vast knowledge of for many, many years, 30 plus years, using business techniques. She knows about charts, and so she's a wonderful mentor. She's also, and I'm kind of scatting through this particular one, but the mentor and representative for Solar Fire. So if you happen to be going to NORWAC this year, check Karen out because she's really the soul that understands this. Does class instruction and workshops, and she also involves astrology, tarot, mythology, metaphysics, and mediumship. And it's really a very nurturing, informative, to the point instruction and mentoring that Karen provides. I can testify. So
Thank you.
It's wonderful. Yes, indeed. And you can find Karen at her email, which is kwenderlind@comcast.net. And just go to this slide here. So we are talking about this historical shift that our nation really had no other choice.
Yeah, for sure. The original government of the United States was formed on the basis of the Articles of Confederation. And after the war with Great Britain ended, we had to have a government. And so this became it. And it was not very effective. It was very limited in its scope. And the Articles of Confederation remained in operation until the moment when the Constitution became effective. And so one just ran right into the next one. They both had to go
Ratified?
through a constitutional convention. They had to be voted on. They had to be ratified and approved by the states, and all of that.
Yeah.
Until their effective date, when they were approved by the particular government body at that time.
In-
And so this was the second chance at having a new government. And we've had this government for so long that most people don't even consider that it's actually the second government. And, but it is the basis of the structural basis of how the United States wanted to operate.
That is so valuable. Yes, Karen. I know in our conversation, thankfully, we're both really motivated to understand more about this nation, to find out how it's, on what basis we're working. But this one, as you indicated, it provides the law, because whoops, what did I do? Did I miss something?
You
I
did.
think I did. I did. What happened here? Let me go, folks. Oh my goodness. I had more. Well, I switched. Well, whatever happened, I guess I'm trying to find that one, because I have the articles. I put in all the articles. Did you see that one?
Oh, yeah, but that's it. That's okay.
Okay, well, there are 7 articles, and the first one was
Mhm.
the legislative branch, the second was the executive, and the third article was a judicial, meaning that once we had in 1789 the structure to be able to enforce some kind of systematic give and take with our branches of law. So it really,
Yeah, and it established how each one of those entities were to talk to each other. It was the basis for it, and out of that, law could occur. And the most important part, for the federal government, was to be able to form alliances, form agreements between the states and each other, and to be able to have commerce between each other, to have an army, to have a navy, because at the time, pirates were a thing.
yes, indeed.
And so you needed Navy to be able to.
Long John Silver, is that one of them? I don't know. But anyway, go ahead.
Not with us, but he was around. But yeah, all those guys were out there, and we had old bills from the previous war of independence. And there had been some very, very serious riots of former military people who did not get paid what they were promised to be paid. And that's because the old articles could not enforce the actual collection of money from the states. And if the state said, no, we'll pay for our guys, but we won't pay for these other guys, it's like, well, everybody's got a share here.
Yeah.
And so they had a very they got
there we go. They got rearranged somehow. I don't know how. Yeah.
And so with one of the things too was ratifying this Constitution was pretty difficult. The 9th state, which was 9 were required for the creation of the government to begin with, the 9th state said, we don't trust you guys. What we need is this Bill of Rights.
Yes, indeed. They had already, if I can jump in, indeed, because these states had already been formed, and they had also experienced, coming from England, what a king was, and really determined that, yes, we need a government, but we also need the individual rights of the states. And the bottom line wanted to protect the individuality of the person. So it's constantly this situation, even now. How much does the state have? How much does the government have? But unless, like James Madison, unless we had the Bill of Rights, we wouldn't have a constitution. But which Bill of Rights didn't happen for a little while after this.
Yeah, but it started being formatted, being written by Madison during the period of time after the Constitution was already being voted on. And so kind of at the same time, and then once the Bill of Rights amendments had been submitted, then the ninth state actually ratified at that point. And then it was just a few months after that, but then it was another year before all the states approved the Bill of Rights. So it became a part of the Constitution at that point.
Yeah, it sure did. And it actually, I see what happened. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to go back to where we were. Interestingly, so at this point, I think for our consciousness to realize that every nation chooses what they're going to celebrate as the beginning point. We've chosen as a nation to do our independence in 1776, which actually started the year before. And as we've been noting, the war itself didn't end. The fighting didn't end until years later, 1781. And then it was formulated, but we still had troops in 2 cities, but the British stopped fighting with Yorktown, that battle, just to get particular with those history buffs. And then in 83, the Treaty of Paris said, okay, folks, it's finished. But all during that time, since, as you said, in 1781, when the war ended and the Articles of Confederation started, that's when they kept working and working and working to write this manuscript, which was written in 1787. That's where people get confused with whether it was September 17th, because it was written then. But it wasn't effective until March 4th, 1789, when Congress got together and said,
because while it was submitted to the Confederated Congress in 1787, it wasn't effective yet, and it wasn't a thing. We were still under the Articles until they had passed and enough time had passed. And so we have the first Congress of the new United States of America happened on March 4th, 1789 at 10 a.m. is when the first Congress started. So just 2 hours before the Constitution was ratified or made effective, accepted by the Congress. And at that point, at noon, per the agenda for that first meeting of the Congress, and they barely had enough people show up to make a quorum because they were coming from so far away, that they
horseback, truly,
on horseback,
absolutely,
and so. But they made their quorum, and so the Constitution was approved as it was approved by, at that point, 10 of the original 13 states. The other 2 had to come in later. They figured it out later.
Yeah.
But that's
This is a fascinating chart. I think we both agree at that. And I have several slides. Maybe in this first half hour, we'll be able to look at them. And one of them is all these pairs, the planets, when they are close enough to consider that they're conjunct, because both the sun and moon are immediately at a angular square, meaning it's a lot of action. But interestingly, it's the first square. So it's really getting started, just like this country is trying to get started with the people and the hierarchy of government, all there in the 10th house.
Well,
it's amazing.
And how does a government form when their ideal was that the people were the most important piece of this? It wasn't about the people who served in the government. It wasn't about the people who even served with the courts. It was about how the people are the primary source of authority for the government. This had not happened before. This was weird and new.
Yeah, it's always called the experiment. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it literally it was. And many countries had constitutions and tried to do the same thing and had many tries and many failures. Try, fail, try, fail, try, fail. We're pretty lucky that we actually only had 2. You know, we kind of came up with a winner. And I love this chart.
Yes, I do too. And of course, we used the Iroquois. I know that they had a nation, and Benjamin Franklin. I mean, we had other templates that they kind of combined. Yes, looking at this chart, it is fascinating. Here we have Saturn and Mercury right next to the sun, giving fundamental thought process and working truly with how to go forward with what's the belief system of the big picture with that North Node in Sag, and taking all the information and the ideas of the people and maybe how to help them heal to be real.
Yeah. Well, and the Saturn gives structure. And look at the most important, the sun. Those 3 planets, Sun, Saturn, Mercury, are in Pisces. Pisces about the people, for the good of the all, of the whole, of the wholeness, of the equality of the, at the time, men who owned property only, because nobody else mattered at the time. But it actually has grown into, really, we did mean everybody.
Well, whoever could vote, thankfully, could, and it changed from just who could own property to vote to different means. But you're right, that Piscean energy is the collective. The whole collective.
And Pisces is a very flexible sign. It's one of the triad that is the most flexible, the most open-minded, the most able to see both sides, and to not really be hugely invested in themselves being right. So it's not about that. It's about, are we true to our beliefs and our ideals?
With compassion.
It's like that's the Pisces. I mean, Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac, so Pisces has gained all the wisdom of all of the other signs. And so here is the grandmother energy that has become practical and yet spiritualized at the same time. So the balance of a really good balanced Pisces has both qualities within it. And we've got Saturn here that says, we've got a backbone. We may be Pisces and we may be love everybody, but without a backbone, boys,
we're attaching it to this structure, this idea. This is fundamental.
Yeah.
We're choosing out of all our dreams and ideas and visions what is going to work. Such a good plan. Yeah.
And Mercury says, we can have conversations, we can talk, we can philosophize, we can have a million conversations. And this Mercury is Mercury retrograde. And when I see Mercury retrograde in a chart of a thing, like a document or a resource base like this, a business, this is somebody who is ahead of their time. They're ahead of their time. And that's a good thing when you want something to last. Now, it can be hard getting started. It can be hard getting started because you have
so
to
many
talk
threads
about it so much. And it's try, fail, try, fail, try, fail. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else. And, we have lots of laws in the United States that are completely irrelevant now. And that's because they failed, right? We tried something, didn't work. They didn't necessarily get rid of that law, but it failed. It was a failure. So
looking at this, it's quite connected. I mean, just looking at the sun and the moon, first of all, they have the people and the ideas, it's right here, but also it's working that Ceci quadrate with Uranus, really, which is a square and a half, really actively working with what is sudden happening. And it's, I'm going to go to the next chart. Here, I think in this chart, there's
in this one we've got our little minor grand trine that they're called, with that Neptune trine Pluto trine sextile into Ceres, and then Ceres sextile back to Neptune. It's like, how do we take care of all of the people we have? Ceres is, for those of you who need a refresher, is a minor planet, and its focus is about caretaking. It's the grain, it's the harvest, it's the farmer, it's the practical, what does my household need to make it through winter this year?
What will sustenance, nurture.
Yeah, and it's in the sign of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is about the law, is about our values. Sitting in the sixth house like it is, it's about day-to-day life. So how does our government create the values that we need and laws for our day-to-day life, for our routine as a country? Because there's just stuff you got to do.
There's bigger and bigger, more complex. Yes, to have it, to make it work this time. And then interestingly, there again is that Uranian sudden energy at the beginning of Leo that is really the focal between our destined, you could say, paths of past and present, which is bringing in information and forming our ideals, our belief structures in Sag, or else changing that righteousness to saying, look, you're not being inclusive. Maybe the broader picture is better. But I find that to be
it's
integral.
Yeah, it's like anything. If you get stuck in your ways, you stop learning. You stop being, you're no longer flexible. You can't roll with the punches, as it were, and create what you want to create because you're stuck in a system that becomes frozen. And so having this kind of revolve around Ceres and Uranus, we get a lot more flexibility. We get a lot more openness of mind that isn't going to stay quite as unfocused. Uranus, as you notice, is also in an aspect to the nodal axis. And the nodal axis is in my frame of reference, is about the connections that we make with each other and with the world at large, right?
Good.
And
That
so
works.
it's how does this work? How does this evolve itself into something broader, right? How do we hold this conversation? And the nodes are in very chatty signs of Gemini and Sagittarius. So it's the what I know to the philosopher. So it's the practical to the philosophy. It's both. And there's that Uranus that is giving you the push and pull back and forth, challenging all of it. Well, what about this? And what about that? And,
yes, indeed.
Because we didn't agree from day one about slavery. It was a huge issue at day one.
Yeah, a compromise at the start. It was. It had to be in order to. It is very fascinating that in compromise, that ability to be able to focus and say, what is the intention? What is the true mission? And then work in coalition to that. This is our last slide for this little half-hour section before we cut away. And this learning triangle, which I've discovered is actually a name, involves 3 patterns or 3 aspects that combined is exactly that. It's a learning process. There's a square, which is action, a trine, which is a flow of energy. And then a quincunx, which is really 2 energies that haven't anything energetically, whether it's their mode or anyway, not to get involved, but it's push and shove. It's like juggle between this and that, trying to align. It's an adjustment, total adjustment. So we have 3 of these, meaning this whole dynamic of this constitution is possibly really fulfilling its mission, such as you're really indicating that it needs to be flexible. It needs to listen. It needs to remember who we're listening to, because we have here, looking at that, which you brought up, the focal planet would be the one that is trine and square. So we have here Neptune that's listening to some and working and flowing, but it's also in another one that the listener is Jupiter. And so between that, that's really the vision and the big picture, and what direction are we really working with the people?
And the third one is the North Node. And so you get, to me, when I think about that inconjunct aspect, it's, you have an opinion, I have an opinion, and I don't get your opinion at all. I don't understand it. So that energy, it's like, I don't get it. I just can't get it. I'm completely out to lunch.
Provide something new, show a new, write it out or draw it or something.
And so, but the only way I can relate then to that inconjunct energy, that quincunx energy, is to actually go there, sit next to you and go, okay, what do you have going on? That's the only way that I can take my frame of reference off. So those green lines, those 2 planets don't get each other.
No.
And so, but the learning is the way I can learn about you. So the way that, let's pick one of these, the way that Pluto and Jupiter learn about each other is through Neptune. And so they take that energy and Jupiter says, oh, I understand Neptune. Neptune's square to me. And Neptune says, and I understand Pluto just fine. We can talk. We're trying each other. So by talking to Neptune, the three of them together, and what's the point of the government but to take people and institutions and different advocacy groups from one point of view to another to talk to each other to create a compromise
and understanding. Thank you so much. That is very good. We have to take a little break, and we'll be back. And I think we've set a good framework. Oh, absolutely. It's not something often talked about. Thank you so much, Karen Wennerlind of Seattle, Washington. We'll be right back, folks. Stay with us. There's so much more ahead to see how it's working today. Thanks. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Aries. By leaving a cycle based upon completion, the energy of Aries sparks initiation, creating action to separate into a new cycle of life. It's a fire sign, which means it will involve great emotion. And because separation may create resistance, it also takes great courage to break away to new ways of becoming.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, it's Easter Sunday, and we'll be here. It's also Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and Animals 24-7. Plus, we'll find out about all the great stuff coming up at the Ananda Institute for Living Yoga. Hope you can join us, Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Need help getting started with self-help? You came to the right place. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hello, everybody, and I'm back again, and I totally apologize. My slides somehow with my computer totally went bananas, so I'm going to have to go back and forwards, which I rarely do, but hey, we're indirect, but we're following up a lot of the retrograde season. That's all I can kind of relate to. So at the break, whoops, what did I do? We have here Karen Wennerlind, and you can contact her at Wennerlind, that's Wennerlind at Comcast.com. And you can, at NORWAC, and that will be on Memorial Day weekend on the 29th, 30th, 31st. In fact, I don't think you have to, in order to go to the bookstore, you don't need to go to NORWAC. So for those people in Seattle, if you didn't happen to attend, which is a wonderful event, and I think right now it's full, you can only do it online. But if you go into the Marriott down there at South Center, it's not the Marriott, it's the Tree. It's the, what hotel is it? The Doubletree, the Doubletree Hotel, and walk in on the first floor and go to the right. There's the bookstore with all those wonderful books, and there's Karen. So check it out, folks. That's in Memorial Day weekend. A lot happening if you don't go to the Center for Folk Life. There's always that too.
On the way back home, whatever.
Yeah, but one and the other, make it a day. So for Talk Cosmos, we have lots of events, and there's plenty about the spring equinox. You might check last week because it gave some vibrational patterns for this whole 3-month season with Linda Barry. But next week will be the restart of Gemini in Uranus in Gemini. That's actually later in the month in April. But Mark Jones is going to come and talk with Laura and myself. So that'll be always illuminating. Well, maybe we can manage. What did I do here? Oh, this is the very end of my talk. My conversation, I don't know, folks, but life is like that. And maybe that's like what you were saying. You have to be so flexible about everything. Like
You do.
So maybe I'm just going to go
Yeah,
backwards.
Go
Go ahead.
backwards a little bit. And we'll go to that progression slide.
Yeah.
A little bit farther. One more.
No, yeah.
There we go.
Progressions. I think this is it. Because secondary progressions, that's our conversation. There's a slide here. We won't cover all of it, but Karen, go ahead. I know you have thoughts here happening.
All right. So when you're looking at secondary progressions, they are a symbolic formula technique. You move forward one day in actual time equals 1 year of life. And so we just move that chart forward with that symbolic movement. And shockingly, it works. It's amazing.
Brings attention to if it connects with something in that other chart. Yep.
Yeah. And so in 30 days, that equals 30 years. 60 days, 60 years. Well, when you think about that, the moon, the sun, Mars, Venus, Mercury, all will move a significant amount in 60 days. But Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, all the rest of those guys hardly move at all. And in
slow, long orbits, right?
And so I like using progressions for those fast-moving personal points, because to me it symbolizes how am I as a person growing on the inside over time.
It's beautiful.
And so it's like it's because we shift, we change, and we don't even notice it sometimes. But who you were 5 years ago and who you are today, you are different people.
Yes.
But it's like it's shifting so slowly that you don't even notice.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of our time going ahead with so many slides here. Yeah, no, you're wonderful, Karen. And I just wanted to bring attention to the moon itself, because that's really the focus of this, is to say that the moon itself lasts in a progressed sign for 2.5 years, which will be very important when we look at this next chart, which is with the United States Constitution, 1789. And that's on the inner wheel, and the outer wheel will be the progression. But we chose, Karen noticed that in June 22nd, the progression of the progressed moon is exactly conjunct, just what she was indicating, one of the planets. And it's a personal planet that happens to be conjunct, and it's Mars. They're both at that very last moment of 29 degrees and 6 minutes. And this will be in June. And the significance, we'll discuss the significance, but also to recognize that means, and I brought in another chart that, I said here that on July 20th, a few months later, it will ingress into Pisces. So the next 2.5 years after that point, our progressed moon for this constitution with the laws of how this country operates. And this happens to be in the 9th house, which signifies the court, is really the focal point of what our whole conversation is going to bring about. Because right now we're looking at it in Aquarian view. Go ahead.
Well, and we're at the end. So here's the last degree where people are in their heads about here's the law and here's what's important, capital I, and the people, individual people, citizens, are having an opinion about the law, about the Constitution. And what have we been talking about the last actually the last about 8 years, but especially the last 2 years? Is that what is the law? How are the courts working? What can we trust? What's right? What's the way to think? It's been an intellectual Aquarian conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to shift just in July over into Pisces. And that new cycle of 2.5 years of the public doesn't care, letter of the law. How does it feel? How is the law serving me? Is the government serving me? Is the basis of how I as a citizen relate to this country, is that a thing that I feel connected to or not? Does it serve me? This now a very different conversation than the one we've had the last 2 years.
Yes.
Very different conversation. And that's a big shift. We've had a power imbalance where people are arguing over which branch should have the most power. And right now we're at a period where the executive branch is wanting all the power. And we've had those before, and we'll have them again. But right now, that's where we are. Other times it's going to be that the judicial is more powerful. Other times it's going to be the legislature is more important. But, so the 9th house versus the 10th house versus the 11th house, which one is more powerful? But at the end of the day, they all have to work together in order for the country to really prosper and be grounded and serve its function. Yeah. And I think the chart, talks about that a great deal. I love too that now we have the sun down, progressed sun is down in Scorpio in the 5th house. Oh yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. I
just love that.
Yeah.
Is it right or is it just?
Yes, you had brought that up. And here we have the argument with that conjunction of Mars with the moon, that Mars wants to go ahead and act and it's about the self, like you're saying. But the moon, actually, they have very similar needs, because the moon wants security and wants safety, and it's looking for the whole picture. And there we have the court, which is Pluto there, and Pluto's in that house. So it's so fascinating. And here, I think this is the biwheel that we have, or do we have the triple? I'm so lost with my slides, and I apologize. I love how I think some things got added, but now I don't have any system of where to find anything. And I'm like in a myriad of, let me see what's happening so I can get through. Oh, okay. I think, okay, there we are. Let's say here. Here's the 9th house. It's the courts, the Supreme Court. And I think what we had is a little bit here of how the court gets organized. We don't have a lot of time, but because it's 9th house, we have Pluto there. We have, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. So we have those 3 planets and that progressed moon are all in the 9th house. And so it's like we're looking to the court system, the entire system, not just the Supreme Court, but the entire court system, to fulfill its function. and to do what it is supposed to do. We're looking, the progressed moon is saying we're looking toward you, courts, to do the right thing, to be on our, what we need to do. And the Supreme Court has a very structured way that they look at the cases that they accept, because they don't accept everything that gets submitted to them.
In
So
fact, if I can just say that lately it was like out maybe 50 to 70 they get 8,000 petitions, and they look at 1,000 of them that the clerks looked at while they were on recess during the summer. And they do that all in a day. They look at 1,000 of them in a day and choose 70 or 50 and spread it out throughout the calendar. And I think, and I've learned a little bit about this having spoken with you and looked online to find out more of the details, which people can read here. But the important part is that although they record those judgments, the final ones are really in June, and that's when this conjunction is happening. And then they go on recess in July.
Yeah, and so you'll find that all of the most political judgments that get released by the court all happen at the end of June. Those last few weeks of the opinion calendar, and because then they let people go off and argue about it, and then they walk away and go, we're not talking about it. We decided. That's it.
Yeah.
And they because they're done. They've done their job. They said their piece. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Go away. Now, then it's up to the people to tell the legislature, this doesn't work for us, or this does work for us, but now we need to change it like this by law, which would be a legislative function. So now, legislature, you go off and fix this thing that the Supreme Court said isn't going to work. Or like recently with the Supreme Court telling the executive that you can't do your
tariffs
the way you want to.
Yeah, there were certain laws that there is a method, but not that method. And
but not
therefore, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's the legislature's job, not your job.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's a give and take throughout this whole system. And that was a great example.
And of course, the executive was pissed off. Yeah. But the legislature was not strong enough to be able, or united enough to give him the authority to do that. Now, you can give up the authority to the executive, and they've done that. The legislature over history has done that a lot, in that we have departments like the Department of Natural Resources that says, oh, you can legislate, you can make not laws, but you can make rules about how we use our natural resources without having to keep coming back to us in the legislature and asking us.
It's an adjustment. Yes.
Yeah. And so they're allowing the professionals in the executive branch to do their job as much as possible, keeping it open, keeping it fluid, because again, this is an organization that we're talking about. The government is a big organization that needs to flow, that needs to grow, that needs to.
And looking at this chart right here in our last time period, it is a tri-wheel. For those people listening on the podcast, it is the U.S. Constitution, 1789, March 4th, 1789. And then the inside middle one is the second progression as of June 22nd. And, I see we have a little bit more time than I figured. Goody. And then the last is the transits on June 22nd. So I put some circles around what to show a little bit. There is a grand square, which is a lot of activity moving. I don't see, just to clarify, squares as negative. It's just action. They need to, one idea wants to work with another idea or need. But look at that arrangement. So what we're thinking is, this is in the 9th house, where this progressed moon at 29 degrees 6 is conjuncting the natal Mars at that last degree of 29 degrees 6 minutes Aquarius. But the nodes happen to be within range, just a few degrees. They're at the very end. They go backwards, the very end of Pisces. So it's just about, which the moon will soon go into. So that's an alignment, and meaning that if the court gives out judgments at the very end in June, with the anticipation of going on their recess, that there could be, with legislature people going back home, there's going to be some difference of opinion that those actions were in their favor. It could be a little difficult.
Well, and this is a period too where I would expect, with that node there, that certain groups of people will be very happy and others will be very unhappy, because the minute you have happy people, you have unhappy people.
And it involves go ahead. I was going to look at it.
So this whole piece is bringing together people with different political objectives into their own mini groups, and then some of them will form bigger groups, and some will be for this and against that, and X, Y, Z.
Karen, what's so interesting,
no matter what, but that's
what's so interesting here is that both nodal systems are square each other. I always find that fascinating. And there's planets involved with them. So just what you're indicating with the Jupiterian big vision, making things grander and ideas. And it's also looking at people vocalizing, in their own community, 3rd house, Leo, of identity or of self, along with Uranus of what's suddenly new coming in. It's we have 3 minutes left. It's going. Gosh. Oh, I froze, I guess.
You froze.
Oh my goodness. We're, energy's coming in. We have to, but this is all the new moons from the very beginning. I went down a rabbit hole, and amazingly, look at this. In 1781, when the Articles of Confederation were ineffective, but immediately realized that we're going to work on something different, which became 12 years later, the Constitution. And I say 12 years because we both charts have Jupiter in Cancer, and this year Jupiter is in Cancer, and they're both having these returns. And so therefore that was a new moon right then in Pisces, but it goes through all these years. So right now we're working with one from 2017 in Libra. We're certainly trying to get along.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the goal of that Pisces midheaven, isn't it? It's to create, and the Cancer ascendant.
Oh, yes.
Create a just society for all.
Well, Karen, with future times, and we will have future times that we can talk, I will make sure that there's some systematic flow with the slides, because I'm always trying to reach out beyond this. It's like Here we have a constitution. It's a piece of paper, but the goal is more. Thank you so much, everybody. May your goals be more.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.